Hello, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Amberlicious.
We are Untitled Network. This is the UNN first official review on release day
Yay!
well, technically it came out on Thursday night, but Friday, today is the official release day.
It's the release weekend.
Spoilers, of course,
Spoilers.
and the way it's actually pronounced in the movie is Shang-Chi. And we've been calling it Shang-Chi like a bunch of
Rednecks.
Asian rednecks, basically. Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
And the Legend of the Ten Rings. Yeah.
They even make a joke about it in the movie.
Yes, it's because he goes by like an American name, Sean.
They
And
just dropped the G.
yeah. And they made like a big deal about, oh, no wonder.
No wonder your father found you. Look what you used for your alias.
That.
To be fair, he was 14.
Yeah. So we're just gonna dive right into spoilers because they showed like some action stuff in the trailers and everything, but they didn't really show any plot whatsoever in the trailers.
No, they kept the plot really sealed up for a good reason.
Yeah. Holy crap. Okay. There was a lot of stuff to unpack in this movie.
Right.
There was, whew. Okay, so basically him and his sister are the son and daughter of this, like, 4,000-year-old dude who possesses the Ten Rings, and their mother who is from, like, a thousands of years old community that lives kind of like, I'm assuming, like in a...
You know what it gave me vibes of?
Narnia?
Skull Island.
Oh. Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean...
How it's like off the chart, but it's here.
Yeah, I thought it was like a...
It did. Narnia's fair, because
Yeah.
it is hidden in this big woods.
Like
you
a
know?
pocket dimension or something.
Yeah, they literally said, stay in the pocket.
Yeah, because there's like these woods, and the woods are alive, and the woods will basically crush you and eat you up if you go into them. But there's like certain times a year or whatever, like you have to go into the woods as
There's a certain path that's straight on.
The trees part, and then you have to like go through it and stay in it, and like you have to be in a vehicle apparently for it to work.
Oh yeah, because you're not that fast.
Yeah, and so like it's like a maze, and the trees are constantly opening and closing in different paths and stuff, and you have to get through it to make it to this other place, and that's where she's from. And years ago their dad made it to the entrance of the place. He didn't actually go in, but he met their mother there. They had like a little fight, fell in love.
I know, because he met his match.
Yeah.
Because, he was using the 10 rings to gain all this money and power. And what it was is the money and power wasn't doing it for him anymore. So he was looking for something more. Little did he know he found love.
Yeah.
That's what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sweet.
I'm still drinking my giant drink.
You are. You refilled before we left. That's Lonnie getting his money's worth.
It's one of the only places you can get a raspberry Coke. It's the movie theater. Oh yeah, but
anyway.
who wants to go there? But we, so that happens. He ends up spending like 10 years in San Francisco, finds him a girlfriend, whether he wanted to admit it or not.
No.
Oh, they kind of had a...
No, they were completely platonic. They were best friends. They didn't even kiss in this movie.
Well, everybody else seemed to think otherwise.
Well, okay, yes, her family was very traditional, and of course our grandma was like, when are y'all getting married? And she was like, we're just friends. Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah.
Not to say that it couldn't develop later, but
That's
now...
true. They never did really go anywhere with it.
No, there was no romantic connection there whatsoever. It is strictly platonic.
And that's actually a good thing, because
I think so too.
a lot of movies, Marvel's done a really good job with that. They don't really try to force any kind of romantic story in there for plot's sake.
It looks really natural when it develops.
Yeah.
It really does.
it was like, they teased Black Widow and Hulk a little bit, tiny bit.
And they still have that connection.
Yeah.
But they don't make it a huge plot point, what it is.
They don't have that connection anymore.
I mean, obviously, but...
But yeah, like, that was pretty cool. His sister stayed behind. He was supposed to come back and see her in like 3 days. Stayed gone for 10 years. She trained in secret, became like an assassin, which there were a couple of after credit scenes that we'll get to in a little bit, and I thought that was kind of neat how the final one wrapped up the sister's story, or really just got it started.
Yeah.
Because when all's said and done, she's supposed to go back to their country to dismantle the Ten Rings organization and, I guess bulldoze the compound to the ground, but she ends up going back and taking over and ends up making it like a new version of the...
But I can see that because she had the beginnings of a villain.
Yeah.
The mother died, and so then the father basically neglected her.
Yep.
Because she was a woman. And, she trained in secret. And then her brother abandoned her, more or less, even though he was just a kid himself. And...
Will she be a villain in the future?
Yeah.
Or you think so?
Yes, absolutely. Just for the simple fact of, she built that whole fighting underground thing from scratch, and just because her father wouldn't let her in his crew. She said that. That's the whole reason she did that. Now her father's gone, so she can take over the crew.
Yeah. Well, they...
I mean, I know they teamed up at the end and worked together, but...
There was... Okay, so their dad has possession of the Ten Rings, makes him super powerful. During the big battle, right there at the end, God, there was so much going on there.
Oh.
The big one was you get dragons. There's this. I think it's, from what I understand, like this big monstrous dragon was called the Soul Eater.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some stuff going on with the Soul Eater in Marvel Comics. I almost feel like it was in some X-Men comics one time. I'm actually going to look it up right now, just kind of get a little...
This village where the mom's from is protecting humanity from this monster behind this gate.
Yes.
And it apparently preys on weaknesses. Almost kind of like it. Preys on fears. But, when the mom died, the dad just absolutely lost himself, She had basically turned his life around, and of course he was, distraught and went back to his old ways, but he swore up and down he was hearing her speak to him.
Yep.
And it was the monster disguising itself. First off, you got these little dragon alien things that are coming to eat little souls to make it powerful enough to where it can come out. Find out anything over there?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure if this is supposed to be the same character or what, but in the comics, the thing was a little less dragon-like and looked a little more celestial-like.
Yeah.
But there are some celestial connections there.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really awesome because here in just a couple of months, we're going to have the Eternals. And
right.
Holy crap, I cannot wait for that one.
Yeah, and that seemed like, us watching the preview of the Eternals, that creature that they battled seemed up their territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Deviants or something like that.
Yeah, the Deviants.
Which is funny because in the article about the Soul Eater, there were talking about a race called the Dianists. I was like, oh, I don't know about all that. But yeah, there's a lot of connections. I'm almost positive this movie's going to have a lot of connections to the Eternals. But yeah, they had like a dragon. Honest to God, like, and I don't know if maybe like the name throws it off or whatever. But I honestly expected one of those dragons to be Fing Fang Foom
Yeah.
from the comics. But I'm pretty sure Fing Fang Foom was like a super intelligent, could talk, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
And I don't I might be wrong, but I don't think that was him. Either one of those.
Do you think the mom, like, kind of knew what might happen? Because, she was like, she gave them the necklaces that opened the map. And she even told him, it was like, you will always be our dragon. And he's the one who got the dragon out of the water and brought it up because his dad threw him in there.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like some kind of...
Or maybe she didn't know exactly what was going to go down. She just knew he had it in him to do it.
Like the, prophecy or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure eventually somebody would have probably took the time to seek him out. Like, I'm sure there were several paths to that final destination there, but I mean, who knows? I thought it was really neat in this movie to see Wong from Doctor Strange. Now, they establish pretty early on that this movie takes place probably in the first 2 or 3 years after the snap happened. Because, everybody was gone for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you could tell this was kind of early because, number one, Bruce Banner was still in human form.
Captain... For the after credit scene.
Yeah. This was all in the after credit scene. Captain Marvel hadn't cut her hair yet. Doctor Strange hadn't returned, obviously.
They weren't meeting in person either.
Yeah, they weren't meeting in person. Well, they were still meeting through hologram at the beginning of Endgame.
That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole thing, it was interesting because they were like...
Well, they even made mention when they went out with their friends to dinner. Because, their friends were like, what are you going to do with your lives? Because they were valet parking.
Yeah.
Him and the friend. And, just hanging out and going to the karaoke bar and staying out half the night and then going in early, Things you do in your early 20s.
Yeah.
And they're like, we live in a world now where you could just be snapped away from this earth. Shouldn't you do something more meaningful with your life? And so that really seals it there.
Which is interesting because you look... I don't know if it's just certain areas, but look at the beginning of Endgame. This is kind of where I see like inconsistencies. Is you look at the beginning of Endgame after the 5 years had passed, and this is like right like the day of Ant-Man coming back and starting everything was where Endgame picks back up. And everything's all dark. All the baseball stadiums are empty and decrepit. They're just...
But this city where they were...
Was bumping. Yeah. So you've got...
But... It was bumping. Look what they were doing. They were valet parking. So it means there's a lot of people with money there.
Yeah.
And so, basically...
$1 sports cars.
It's like I told you. Well, when you used to, like, defend the snap, I'm like, because it was random.
Yeah.
And I told you that's not going to solve the problem because there's still going to be people left to oppress people.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. The rich still did their thing because it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And the poor people were just kind of having to go along with it.
Yeah. It almost made inequality worse.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it wiped out a ton of the...
It did, though. You mentioned Endgame. Look how crumbled everything was and how shitty everything was there.
Yeah.
Versus this other place that...
It's almost like...
and shit,
It's almost like they just abandoned, like, certain areas.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
Because there just weren't enough people to keep it going.
They migrated and shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was what I was thinking, because everything was all dark and blue, and all the houses and buildings were falling apart. Wildlife, weeds had taken over, even in like the baseball stadiums and stuff. And then you look at this place, and it's well kept, nice, sports cars everywhere, freaking suits, and people just living about like normal. And I'm like, I'm getting two very different narratives here. I almost feel like the
But isn't that what we're going through now with COVID?
Yeah, very true. You've got, we went to a movie, but holy crap, like, not a lot of people are going to movies. Like, you would think that on opening day that theater would have been at least half full. And I would say at most there was about a third of the seats were full.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go ahead and tell you, if I would have, like, because, you on the AMC app, this was like 30 minutes before showtime is when I placed the order for the tickets. I got on there, and it shows you how many seats, which seats are taken and everything. And if it would have been mostly full, I would have been like, maybe we need to wait for another showing. Because I wouldn't have wanted to go in there.
Absolutely.
Like, are you good with saying what you've been through?
Yeah.
Okay, like, so, because you've already had COVID. Like, you had COVID. Like, we've not talked about it on the air at all, because I've pretty much been off the air since. But yeah, it happened, and it wasn't like, I mean, it was bad, but you weren't in the hospital or anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, I haven't had it yet, and who knows if you can get it again, so it's like, you're really having to kind of pick and choose, I guess your battles, are you going to go to a movie? And like, there's some people right now, because, we're being careful. We're being super careful. There's some people who don't give a shit. And they're just like, I'm going to live my life. I ain't going to wear a mask. I'm not going to get a vaccine. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go to the movies. I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to go to a theater. I'm going to cough on the server. Like, nobody cares. Like, there's like half the country right now that does not give a flying fuck. So,
but that was my point.
Yeah.
Is, they're in an area where people don't care what happened.
Yeah.
Life goes on. Live your life. Because who knows, there might be another snap and then you'll be gone.
Yep. Because nobody really knows what the hell is going on.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm sure in other movies and the lower street level stuff, people kind of know. Like, yeah, everybody knows who Thanos was. Everybody knows the Avengers beat him. Blah, blah, blah. I think everybody pretty much knows the story. But, hey, if that happened, God only knows what other forces are out there that might wipe half of us out. Might be a little even less pleasant. But, right. But yeah, like, I love seeing the dragons in this movie. The effects were top notch. I was a little... You were right. The 3D version probably would have been better. But my God, the camera was just so busy and fast moving and stuff that through about a third of the battle scenes, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Because it was all jumbled.
I think the 3D would have helped that out because...
Possibly, yeah.
You would have been able to see it more clear because it was three-dimensional.
Yeah. And it's another funny thing is whenever we first... This is kind of unrelated to the movie itself. But, yeah, when we first got there, like, this was the first movie of the day. Like, they hadn't played anything else. And we got just the regular digital screening. No 3D, no IMAX, no nothing. So we go into the theater, and we're sitting down. And, like, before the movie starts, it's like, please put on your 3D glasses. And I was like... maybe that just plays before every movie. Well, then as the Marvel logo pops up, you can see that it's very clearly blurred horribly. And I'm like, oh my God, we need 3D glasses. We did not order the 3D. Well, about that time, I look around and nobody has glasses. And people are starting to get up. And I was like, oh, okay. So by the time I made it halfway down the corridor, somebody was walking back, and they were like, "Oh, well, we've already let them know they're fixing it." And I was like, "All right." So they completely restarted the movie. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, one thing that does bother me about this is the thing that bothered me about that extra credit scene, the after credit scene, was they're talking to all these other, Bruce Banner, Captain Marvel, Wong, and they're all,
Yeah,
chit
because
chatting.
here's the thing. Flashback for a second for you start talking about that. We see Wong when he goes to find his sister.
Yeah, and he's fighting the
Fighting.
Abomination from the Incredible Hulk movie.
Yes, yes. And they work as a team, we find out after the
Yeah,
match.
like what the hell?
And then they go back to, where they live. And so, I guess, he was watching the whole time, I guess, to know what was going on because he comes and gets Sean and Katie from that restaurant. And then they're friends with the friends that believe him until he showed up.
Yeah, and that's well, what really just irritated the crap out of me about that scene was the fact that they're like, oh, Shang-Chi, welcome to the club. You're going to be part of this from now on. But then there was no reference to him during Endgame.
I know, right?
This dude has the 10 rings.
They're keeping him under wraps or something.
For a reason.
Yes.
Like they're trying to keep him hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't understand the 10 rings yet.
Right. They didn't know shit about it.
And it's going to be funny because, Doctor Strange eventually comes back in Endgame, but it's like he comes back, immediately has the biggest battle in MCU history against Thanos. And by the time everything's settled down and they even have a chance to do anything, time starts falling apart. Because, like, the whole thing with Scarlet Witch, the whole thing with Loki took place for probably the first 5 days after the battle. So you've had less than a week to sit down and gather your bearings, and Wong probably hasn't even had a chance to bring up the 10 rings yet because they're still doing damage control from all the BS that's happened before. Yep. And then suddenly, boom, you've got,
It's like you said, they don't know anything about it. They're like, Bruce is like, is it vibranium? And he's like, no. And, well, how long did your dad have these? How he had them 1,000 years.
4,000 years, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, I thought the place was 4,000 years old, and he had the rings for 1,000.
Okay, he had them for a while. Yeah, because he said 10 lifetimes or something.
Yeah. And they're like, well, these rings are like 10,000 years old,
yeah.
So somebody had them before him, and, it was crazy.
Like, where'd they come from? I'm pretty sure there's, like, some celestial origin there. Mm-hmm. Probably.
I would say so, to tie into our next movie.
People, I don't think everybody realizes how they've done a little bit of work in, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. When they showed the Celestials just wiping out planets and doing whatever the hell they wanted. Mm-hmm. I don't think people really realize how big this is going to be.
Yeah. It's like we're just getting a taste of it in this movie.
Yeah. There's so much going on right now. Mm-hmm. You've got, what's her name? I can't remember her name. She's going around recruiting all the Dark Avengers now. But we've got her.
That plays Elaine.
Yeah.
In Seinfeld.
So we've got her gathering the Dark Avengers. We've got the Celestials on the horizon. We've got the Eternals. We know somehow the Fantastic Four are going to pop up. And reality is literally crumbling at the foundation. Mm-hmm. And you're having all of these multiple universes collide with each other and merge and battle and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, there's a lot going on right now, more so now than there ever has been in these movies. And I was really worried after Endgame because I was like, they're just doing a handful of sequels and a bunch of new properties nobody's going to care about. Well, I care about this one now. And I said it before the movie that Shang-Chi is one of those properties that nobody gave two flying craps about for the last 40 years, 50 years. And now this movie's going to hit and suddenly everybody's going to be a Shang-Chi fan.
Right.
And
it's not they're going to be a fan. They're going to be interested to see where he came from.
Yeah,
well, it might make some fans. It might not. Who knows? But
it's just like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody really knew anything about them, and the first thought that everybody had when they announced the trailer or they announced the movie was, why does anybody want to see Guardians of the Galaxy on screen? They're not anything. And then the first trailer popped up, and it's like, okay, this might be all right. And then from there, now they're one of the most loved franchises in movies in general.
I love the Guardians of the Galaxy portion of MCU.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but no, this. I guess what do you give this movie? That's the.
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Yeah.
It's not 11 territory, but it was pretty It's good enough that I may see if Joseph want to go see it this weekend while you're at work, maybe, or maybe we can go again Monday and see it.
Yeah.
Because I really think he would enjoy it more in theaters than just waiting.
Yes.
To see it on Disney Plus whenever it releases.
Fantastic film. I give it a 10 as well. I totally agree with you. It's not an 11. 11s I think are reserved for your Infinity Wars, your Endgames, Winter Soldier.
I love me some Bucky.
Yeah. Well, the Winter Soldier, that in my opinion, and just going off of.
You have your typical 11s, and then everybody has their personal 11s.
Yeah, the smaller movies that was like, you know what?
Soldier's good.
Yeah.
Civil War's good.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love the Guardians of the Galaxies. Love those, but I'm a sucker for a soundtrack too.
God, yeah, and
so.
You know, this movie had Hotel California, and I don't really want to give away. That's one thing I don't want to give away in the review. It was funny. Hotel California played a pretty big part in the plot. Like, not huge, but it was.
And that was such an obscure pop reference for this movie.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm trying to think of if we missed anything.
There was some good humor bits in here.
There was.
I loved in the end credits scene where Captain Marvel's like, "Oh, I gotta go get my number from Bruce," and Bruce is like, "I don't have her number. She gets that all the time."
Yeah. I feel like he will play so well into that. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me eventually if that Dark Avengers group ends up siding with the Ten Rings or something down, you know.
I could see that.
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, so, I don't know. There's so much stuff to just kind of unpack about this movie. I could do like a 2-hour theory video. Yeah, so. But God, we've already been doing this for half an hour, just sitting down and discussing different stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Amberlicious.
We're Untitled Nerd Network. We'll see y'all next time. This has been the day one review of Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings, the newest MCU movie. Next, we're gonna have Eternals, and that's
gonna be fun.
November.
Yep, November, and then
I
Spider-Man's in December.
Yep, we got 2 movies coming out, and plus we got Venom. And God only knows how Venom's going to work out, because by then we're going to start having the multiverse.
I want to watch that again. I want to watch the first one again. It's been a while.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.